Kevin Sidebottom here, speaker, author, and trainer, and I go around teach sales organizations and leadership teams how to build trust and influence with their team members and their customers to drive more revenue and higher profits. Today, let's talk about how you build a culture of trust in your organization. Now, that can be, a nonprofit, it can be a business, it could be a church, it could be your own family. But if we're going to do anything with other people, we have to have trust. So we're going to talk about how you build a culture of trust wherever you're at. Now, we also have all these different tools that we can use, which you can have someone come in and do trainings or a keynote with Death by PowerPoint. You can go off and do outside events, which is what I highly recommend when you're working on building trust, is to get people off in some of those escape rooms where they're actually working together, solving puzzles, building relationships. And then you do stuff that takes you right outside your comfort zone and puts you about 25 foot off the ground, harnessed in, and you're doing obstacles with members of your team. And I used to do this as a college student. I used to have that as a job, which was really fun. We'd bring in big organizations. And, people of like 5 foot tall would be leaning up against people who are 6 foot tall, doing these obstacles where the wood would actually kind of V out, and they'd have to really start leaning into each other. And if somebody kind of didn't lean in and they kind of bowed their back a little bit, they'd both fall. Well, they'd hang basically and dangle, and we'd get them back onto the obstacles. So there's all these tools, but the main thing is we have to be committed to building trust. Everybody's got to be on board, or else trust really isn't going to grow. So if you're bending your back a little bit, kind of 1 foot in, you're not going to build trust. So if we want to have a culture of trust, let's talk about what we have to have, the why, the big overarching goal of what it's going to need to have. And see, when we're building trust with anybody, we have to answer 3 questions consistently every time we show up. And those questions are, do I like you? Do I trust you? And how can you help me? Those 3 questions we all ask. And, it's been from our survival back in the dark ages where we're leaving the cave to go kill something to bring it back. We had to work in teams with other people that weren't going to steal our food or let us get eaten. So let's talk about what it is that we have to do. Well, we need to make sure when we're showing up that we have a game plan of what we're doing. It needs to be intentionally focused on others. That's right. Not, I want trust. I want people to trust me, but how can I invest in other people to grow our relationship and be intentional so that trust can form? I mean, when we first start dating somebody, they don't really trust us. I mean, they trust us enough to go on another date sometimes, but it takes years and patience and constant interaction and encouragement and putting into the relationship before you have really solid levels of trust where you want to enter into a marriage, right? So we need to make sure we have a plan of what we're going to do. We need to show up. We also need to know where we're showing up. Now, if we're in a noisy area that there's loud noises going off, gunshots or explosions or heavy machinery, it's going to be kind of hard to build trust when we're talking to somebody and trying to have a conversation, right? What's going to happen is they're actually going to have higher anxiety, and they're actually going to say, well, that anxiety is going to be associated with that person. So if we are working in a shop, maybe we need to go move over to a different area that's a little quieter, that we can have a conversation more relaxed. So that way people can answer that first question, which is, do I like you? Because again, if anxiety is high and it's associated with us, chances are they're going to associate us with not being likable. So we need to be likable. And that includes what colors we wear, the different scents we wear. There's tons that go into that likability that affect trust. I mean, if you really want to go get an education in it, walk into a department store and check out the women's department compared to the kids and the men's departments, how they have different lighting, different sounds, and different scents being pumped into those environments because different personalities are affected by all those things. So when we're wearing our colognes or perfumes, they may actually trigger stuff as well, which is why I typically do not wear colognes unless I'm out with my wife. She likes a certain couple colognes, and that's about it. And I actually got an education when I was in St. Thomas about different colognes. I walked into this place, and they had wall to wall, floor to ceiling, different kind of smells, like different perfumes and colognes. And they said, depending on your personality, it's kind of cologne you'd want to pick out for me. And when I was sitting there learning about this, I also learned that, well, unless you know everybody's personalities, you could trigger something and not know it. And the anxiety goes up. And when anxiety goes up, walls go up, likability goes down. So I typically smell clean because nobody really likes BO, let's be honest. But I don't typically want to wear different smells because they could trigger something from someone's past that you have no idea about, and it triggers that anxiety. So we want to be kind of cautious when we're trying to build likability, right? And people aren't going to trust us if they don't like us, so we got to make sure what colors we're wearing. If we're trying to come in with power ties on and show authority, people don't necessarily want to like those people of authority. Just look at President Trump. A lot of people didn't like him. Did a lot of great stuff, but he was kind of, overbearing and powerful, and people just didn't like him. And there's other presidents that had the same thing. So we need to make sure that when we're engaging people, we do so in kind of a neutral and relaxing way. We want their resistance to be down. It's kind of like in sales. You want people to feel comfortable. Got to build rapport and likability. Now, same thing kind of goes into the trust factor. Trust takes a little bit of time, so we need to be intentionally trying to add value to those that we come in contact with to build trust. I mean, there's a story when I was a volunteer firefighter in Florida where two guys were going into a fire to put out the fire. And one guy was a probation guy. They called him a probie, and he's going in with a lieutenant. And, the fire blasted at him, and the probie jumped out the window, leaving the lieutenant in there by himself on a hose line. And you typically need two people to handle a hose because there's a lot of volume of water going through there, and they're very powerful. You know what happened with that probie? Yeah, he was gone because, their life was on the line, and the lieutenant couldn't trust him. Well, if we're going to go in there and try to build trust with people, we got to consistently be trying to grow trust. So we need to be intentionally jumping in to help people as best we can. And what do we do? Well, we need to learn about them. That's right. Constantly asking questions. Salespeople all the time are trained. Ask questions. Learn about people. Be intentional about learning about their stuff. What's the situation that they're in? What are the issues? What are the ramifications? We need to be asking these kind of questions constantly to learn about people, of where they're at, where they want to go, and how we can help them, right? So we need to be focused in on asking questions all the time because we can't give a solution and help people if we don't know where they are. So we need to be intentionally asking questions. By intentionally showing up, you can add in all these tools like trainings and Operation Adventure and all that stuff. But the main thing, if you want to build a culture, you need to be intentionally learning about people. Now, Ramsey Solutions does a fantastic job with this, where they actually have their team leaders know what's going on in all of their team members' lives. Not exactly what they, bought at the store last night or what they ate last night, but the major things. If someone's going through like cancer or lost like a parent or they're going to have a baby, the team leaders know that and they show up and the team rallies around them. There's no fear there. It's all about intentionality and that we care about you. By having that kind of a culture, that's why they've been able to grow, even in down economies, at a rapid pace. Such a rapid pace that they built a brand new building and they're already outgrowing it where they need to build another wing onto that building, and they've only been in it for a small amount of time. Well, that's a great culture. If we want to have a culture like that, we need to show up and be intentionally learning and constantly adding value to people. That's how trust grows, and a culture of trust grows as well when they see the leadership doing that. But if you're not in the leadership position, you can constantly show up, You do it enough times, people are going to take notice of what's going on around you. You're going to build a lot of influence. If you want to learn a little bit more, I've got a trustworthy training that I have online for you that you could take. The information is down below. If you want to talk to me more about building trust and a culture of trust, hit me up. I'll be glad to talk to you and give you some pointers, maybe come in and work with your team. Whatever is going to help you. And if this video is helpful, hit like, share, subscribe, send it to somebody that might help. That's why I do these videos, to help you. All right? We'll see you next time.